The man, Merly during a break in the battle,
executed a flying leap down the city wall. This actually made the iron-blooded warriors,
who were used to life and death,
stare in absolute shock, frozen on the spot.
This was because, at this very moment,
beneath the wall,
there loomed a world-destroying behemoth, capable of reducing half the city to ash with a single punch. Everyone thought the man had gone mad and was seeking death, but in the very next second, upon clashing with my blade, the giant beast was actually forced back 2 steps. However, the monster's palm immediately gathered an energy sphere powerful enough to boil the seas and burn the mountains. Seeing this, quickly dodged backward to put some distance between us. Its attack missed and smashed into the ground, forming a crater 2.5 meters deep.
this made me sigh in awe.
Even though it was just a degraded version, it truly lived up to the name of the demon race, had previously boosted my defense significantly using the rune snake, which meant that my current attack power was completely insufficient to shatter its claws. So now, could only rely on the set of divine artifacts, had acquired from the dungeon to hold it off. With this in mind, activated the Thief's Quickstep. The boots boosted my movement speed for own minute. In an instant, me speed more than doubled in the blink of an eye.
had already arrived behind it.
However, its reaction time was nothing short of incredible. It instantly sensed my attack and turned around to block. The moment the white blade clashed with its red claws, a deafening clang echoed, making the very void tremble. The two of us were like two clashing swords,
Fighting to see who would shatter into pieces first.
relying on my speed advantage, launched relentless attacks at it.
Finally,
Managed to force an opening.
Seizing the opportunity,
Gripped my weapon, dashed forward,
and swung my blade at its chest with all my might.
this strike also thoroughly enraged it. Enduring the pain, it began gathering an energy sphere in its palm again. Only this time, it chose to unleash a ranged shockwave attack. Seeing that it was too late to dodge, hastily raised my sword to block.
The powerful shockwave directly blasted me.
Back onto the city wall over a dozen meters away.
Fortunately,
Had imbued the silence skill from my ring into my greatsword, which was how I managed to cancel out its shockwave. The people on the wall were all whispering in astonishment that I could actually take on a demon all by myself. Park Jung-wook told Han Chul to get ready. They also had to seize this opportunity. Hearing this,
Han Chul asked if he also wanted to join the battle.
just because that guy down there can do it, does not mean we can.
Park Jung-wook told him that even if we do not go,
Other guys will.
Sure enough,
right after he said that,
Quite a few people started rushing down the city wall.
At this point,
The crystals had completely clouded their judgment. They had forgotten just how terrifying the demon race could be.
when Ji-min also wanted to follow them down.
She was stopped by her older sister, who told her that it was not the right time yet.
Hong Xia wanted to see exactly where my limits lay.
After I got back on my feet, noticed the players rushing over.
however,
They did not dare to get too close, only quietly tailing behind me. Ready to land the finishing blow. Completely understood these people's intentions, but I knew that the monster right in front of me was likely about to use its racial skill. When that happens, would not be able to look after the guys behind me. Soon after, the players who had jumped down from the wall had quietly surrounded this demon in the center.
strangely enough,
The demon did not try to stop them. It just stood there quietly. When it started gathering an energy sphere in its palm again, could tell at a glance that it was preparing massive area of effect attacks. So, hastily shouted to the surroundings, telling them to quickly get out of the way.
This guy is not something you can handle.
If you want to live,
Stand behind me.
Some noticed something was wrong and tried to persuade their peers to retreat, but his companion was already blinded by greed,
he believed that only by getting closer,
Would he have a chance to land the final hit?
and thereby obtain the crystal. In the next second, the energy in the demon's hand was fully charged.
Then,
It slammed its fist fiercely into the ground, unleashing massive waves of searing flames in all directions. A small fry player pulled out a divine shield
he had just acquired from the dungeon.
He thought this bit of flame was nothing to worry about. But when the fire reached him, he instantly realized his mistake. Unfortunately,
it was too late.
in a mere instant, he was roasted into a piece of charcoal. Seeing this, the others finally dropped the idea of snatching the crystal and turned around to flee. Just as the flames were about to reach me, activated the silence skill from my ring once more, binding it firmly to my weapon.
then,
Raised my sword and slashed fiercely at the oncoming fire.
the moment those flames touched my sword aura,
They dissipated instantly. The crowd behind me and on the wall simply could not believe their eyes. Had actually extinguished the demon's flames with a sword strike, even though the hand gripping the greatsword was feeling a bit numb.
the demon,
Whose attack I had just blocked clearly was not feeling too good either. But immediately,
started.
gathering high temperature flames in its palm again. Seeing this, did not hesitate in the slightest. Drew my sword and charged forward to engage it in fierce combat once more.
Because in this place, the only own capable of handling third ring demon of the fiery hell was me.
The others, no longer harboring thoughts of the crystal, retreated far away to watch the battle.
The ensuing fight once again
Shattered everyone's perception of me. They never expected that. The gap between me and them would be so unimaginably massive, they could not help but wonder. Was I really just a player like them? Every clash between us was not just a simple attack. It was a contest between two extreme forces.
The cold hardness of steel against the searing heat of light.
The sheer willpower of humanity against an unknown cosmic might. When Lee Guktae saw that I possessed such
Formidable strength.
a sense of dread filled his heart. He knew that if this continued, would seize the dominant power away from the monarchs.
So,
He had to come up with a plan.
Finally,
Swung my blue-white aura blade in a diagonal slash. The blade shimmered with a frigid halo, arcs of lightning crackling at its edges. The tip had already pierced into the monster's chest. In the blink of an eye. Few days had passed since that battle ended.
While Ji-min was waiting by the wall for me.
Han Chul appeared and told her there was no need to wait.
Hearing this,
Ji-min turned her head and asked what he meant.
Han Chul told her that waiting here was useless.
Because he had already waited here for me for a long time, but never managed to run into me.
Having her mind read,
Ji-min quickly turned her head away and denied Han Chul's claim saying she was not waiting for me.
However,
Han Chul assumed that Jimin
Just like him.
was following me under orders from the monarch.
He then asked if she was aware of the recent movements of the Team Alliance.
Well as the reasons behind them.
Jimin glanced at him and asked why he was bringing this up.
Just as Han Chul was about to continue.
He suddenly turned to look behind him,
Confused. G-Min asked him what was wrong.
Han Chul said he felt like someone was staring at them.
but figured it must be his imagination.
At that moment,
Behind a glass window above the street,
Lee Guktae was silently watching the two of them.
Then,
he spoke to his subordinate standing behind him.
It has been so long since that guy Kang Han Su
Monopolized the demon.
Yet we still have not gathered any useful intel.
Does this mean he has not made any special moves?
The subordinate reported that the team
Members had been secretly monitoring me, but found that apart from participating in defense and hunting demons, would occasionally visit the dungeon, almost never took a rest, although thanks to me, the defensive fighters had it much easier. This also spawned another problem. That is, the guys who ultimately did not join a team were now starting to frequently provoke team members. Lee Guktae had long anticipated this issue, because as long as I did not join a team for a day, there would definitely be others who would follow my example. After all, even a team formed by these allied monarchs was taking orders from me. Because of this, he had prepared in advance. He clearly understood that if their authority wavered, they would not be able to effectively control the people below.
Furthermore,
For the sake of his future plans,
he could not let something like this happen.
just as he finished speaking, the door was pushed open, and a group of people walked in from outside. These were all people invited by Lee Guktae, and the topic they were going to discuss today
was the future of the Team Alliance.
Meanwhile,
On the battlefield,
had just slain another demon after pulling out the long needle that had accompanied me. Found it completely worn out.
the continuous.
Non-stop battles over the past few days.
Had caused another weapon to reach the end of its lifespan. Had no choice but to discard it. The reason I engaged in such high-intensity combat was partly to gather 60 crystals, so that I could finally obtain that item. And the demon I just killed happened to be the 60th.
On the other hand,
The high-level divine artifacts sold in the crystal shop were mostly exclusive to teams, meaning they were almost all extremely effective artifacts. If those crystals fell into the hands of the team members, they would definitely cause chaos again fighting over them. Monopolized all the demons, precisely to cut off their ambitions.
As I consumed the 60 crystals.
Exchanged them in the shop for a weapon, was most familiar and comfortable with.
Its name was the Judgment of Decorados.
In appearance,
It looked like dual scythes attached to iron chains. With this weapon in hand, the upcoming battles would definitely be much easier. Thinking of this, my hands itching for action, grabbed the scythes and strode toward the monster horde ahead. Right now, there were about 10 days left until the defense battle ended. Within this time frame, the people from the teams would definitely make a move against me. Even though I did not know who would strike first, was actually quite looking forward to it in the blink of an eye. Days had passed. The little fairy appeared before everyone once again, saying that our batch of players was truly fascinating because we were the batch with the highest number of survivors it had seen so far.
therefore,
It prepared a special event just for us. The moment the fairy finished speaking, people felt the ground beneath their feet begin to tremble violently. Immediately after, the corpses of the slain monsters outside the city wall started exhibiting strange changes.
On by own.
They seemed to come back to life, slowly levitating into the mid-air. Then, they all flooded into a portal inside the castle.
Those monster corpses fused together in the castle's grand hall.
forming an incredibly grotesque orb of flesh.
Finally,
Humanoid demonic beast was birthed from that fleshy orb, and she was none other than the Demon King. From the hidden quest of the Central Island,
The Demon King subjugation battle.
the instant her purple-black wings blotted out the sun, the pink-purple light from the church's dome was torn to shreds. She seemed like the very embodiment of evil,
The source of all terror.
She stood there, as if silently declaring, "This world is now mine." Following that, a crimson wall rose up around the castle, preventing anyone inside from escaping outward.
Next,
The little fairy announced that currently, there were two choices placed before us. The first was to stay here and defend against the undead monsters continuously pouring in, and then escape through the crystal.
But these undead monsters were on a completely different level.
Compared to the ones we had faced before.
The second choice was to embark on a subjugation mission.
Against the Demon King summoned into the castle. When everyone heard Demon King,
They turned pale with fright.
there had been absolutely no mention of a Demon King in the previous rules. The fairy explained that if the Demon King had been summoned directly, every single one of us would likely have perished. But it did not expect our batch to have so many survivors left. Out of necessity, it had to summon the Demon King. The crystal would activate after 30 minutes of undead monster attacks.
However,
Only 500 people would be allowed to leave. Upon hearing this rule, people began casting wary glances at those around them. Because right now,
there were over 1,000 survivors in the castle.
this meant that half of the people would have to stay behind.
Then,
The fairy added that if we killed the Demon King, it would unlock a reward that allowed everyone to leave safely. This was a special gift it had prepared. After the little fairy vanished, 10-minute countdown timer appeared in the sky above the castle. Everyone originally thought they would be saved just by surviving this month, but they never expected to be hit with such a massive dilemma. At this moment, Lee Guktae stepped forward and said,
In 30 minutes.
"We will head to the crystal. We just need to hold on until then." He also ordered the members of the Team Alliance to gather near the crystal immediately, while the rest of the people were to resist on the wall. Just as he turned around and prepared to leave,
he was called out by Kang Min behind him.
Kang Min said resentfully, "Do not think I do not know that you, team members, are planning to gang up and run away."
Lee Guktae, however,
Replied, "Regardless, compared to acting independently,
It's not uniting to fight a defensive battle the much better option.
he added that he was only doing this so more people could survive." Hearing this, Kang Min retorted that he truly lived up to his title as a team monarch.
Actually managing to come up with such a scheme?
Does it not matter to you whether anyone else outside of your teams lives or dies? But Lee Guktae did not want to keep arguing with him. He asked him if he had any better ideas right now.
You should know that a mere demon grunt
That appeared on the first day killed dozens of people instantly, with just a casual wave of its hand. What possible way do we have to defeat that Demon King the fairy talked about?
Next,
He turned and asked the others what they thought. Do we choose to systematically defend against those undead monsters and hold out for 30 minutes to advance to the next island together? Or do we choose to seek out that Demon King like moths to a flame? After hearing these words, Kang Min was also momentarily at a loss for a rebuttal, because going up against the Demon King was indeed completely unrealistic. Seeing them begin to waver,
On Ju-hyun
secretly praised Lee Guktae's eloquence. Currently,
His peaceful team and
the smoke team were allies.
So as long as Lee Gupte secured leadership,
He would also be able to evacuate safely.
at this moment,
suddenly stepped out from the crowd and said, only by hunting the Demon King can everyone survive. Seeing me step forward,
Lee Guktae and An Jo-hyun
secretly cursed me for coming out to interfere with them again. He then walked up and asked me if I
had absolute confidence in defeating the Demon King.
told him honestly that I was not entirely sure myself either.
However,
What I was certain of was that if we went to the crystal, the death toll would definitely exceed 500.
Or perhaps even more. As soon as these words were spoken,
The solo players began standing behind me.
ready to follow my lead.
Kang Min thought to himself.
After all this back and forth, it still comes down to following me in the end.
Soon,
All the solo players joined the subjugation squad against the Demon King. In the end, even Park Jung-wook's mech team and
Hong Shi-a's Noah team chose to join. Seeing the current situation,
An Ju-hyun felt things were taking a turn for the worse. Originally,
His side.
could still use force to suppress the solo players, but now,
It was just him and Lee Guptae's teams left.
it seemed he had to think of another way. He quickly figured that once the battle began,
The scene would definitely be incredibly chaotic.
He could then use the confusion to launch a sneak attack and kill me.
but before he could even finish his thought, suddenly turned around and shot him a frigid glare.
then,
Threw my scythe towards him. However, I'd had no intention of taking his life, merely landed it by his feet as a warning.
if you guys want to pull some petty tricks behind my back,
After the hunt starts,
go ahead.
But I hope you are prepared to face the corresponding consequences.
me terrifying perception instantly left the two of them dumbfounded. Ultimately,
Lee Guptae chose to compromise and assist me for now.
planning to look for another opportunity to strike later, after clarifying the current situation, said, then there is only one last thing left for me to wrap up.
Having said that,
Started walking slowly toward the crystal in the center.
That represented our escape route.
When I arrived in front of it, violently swung the chains in my hand, wrapping the crystal tightly within them with a continuous tightening force from my wrist. The crystal was ultimately shattered into countless pieces.
Neither Lee Guptae nor An Jo-hyun expected.
That I would resort to such extreme measures.
An Ju-hyun asked me tremblingly what I was doing.
Told them, anyway,
Once we enter,
the castle to subjugate the Demon King. This thing will be useless. If we leave this escape route open, people will become cowardly. My actions and words directly ignited the crowd's determination to win at all costs. Voices rang out from the crowd, pledging to follow me to the death. Said,
You're not following me?
but rather your own indomitable selves? So, for the sake of your own lives, fight with everything you have got.
Just as I finished my final sentence,
The 10-minute countdown in the sky also hit 0. Everyone followed me and pushed open the castle doors. However, the castle now and the internal structure they were familiar with before were completely different. The inside was completely saturated with a sinister aura. When we walked into the grand hall of the castle, the candles on both sides suddenly lit up, standing at the very back.
the Demon King,
Muttered to herself,
long time no see.
it really has been a few years since I last saw a human.
Then,
With a gentle flick of her finger, she locked the main doors. Everyone had just entered through. At the same time, a notification popped up on everyone's panel saying the castle was sealed. The ground beneath our feet started trembling violently once more. In the next second, person-wide fissures actually started cracking open, and it seemed like something was crawling up from within. Looking closely, we realized it was a swarm of incredibly hideous monsters, just as a monster was about to lunge at this poor lackey's face. It was intercepted by a chain.
Oz, I retracted the chain.
Told them to calm down.
These monsters are no different from the ones we dealt with before.
Other than being a bit uglier. Told everyone to stay alert and prepare for battle. The truly difficult ones to handle are the guys behind them. Just as my voice trailed off,
The ground ahead
began splitting into even larger and wider fissures. Searing pillars of fire erupted from them, and within the flames, towering figures started to emerge own by own. Knew that to see the Demon King,
we had to deal with these demonic gatekeepers first.
Fortunately,
only 2 gatekeepers had appeared, told the several monarchs to step forward with me to stabilize our formation, and then immediately issued orders to position our forces, split up and deal with both of them simultaneously. Healers and supports all moved to the very back of the formation. Anyone with long-range attacks, stand at the front.
Serenity is for the rest of you without much combat power.
Take care of the straggling mobs around us yourselves. Park Jung-wook saw me preparing to step forward and said, charging in recklessly like this is too risky. But before he could even finish his sentence, dashed straight toward the Own on the left. These 2 monsters were merely inferior replicas, modeled after the gatekeepers of the Abyss. Although they were much weaker than the true gatekeepers, their attack patterns were virtually identical. Therefore,
relying on my past life's combat experience against them,
should be able to predict their moves in advance. It was also the perfect opportunity to test out the new weapon in my hands. With this in mind, swung the scythe down toward its head,
It reacted immediately.
using its sword to deflect my scythe. However, instantly activated Decoratos's inherent oppression skill. Instantly. Dense clusters of iron chains entangled its greatsword. The taut chains made it impossible for it to even pull the sword back.
Immediately after,
the chains began to slowly creep up its body, until it was completely wrapped within them. Binding the target with oppression continuously drains their mana, while also inflicting a curse that lowers their stats.
Although it continuously consumes my own mana as well.
Could easily sustain this level of drain once I had it completely suppressed.
Asked the bunch of guys behind me.
Are you just gonna stand there and watch? They still had not recovered from their initial shock, but my shout snapped them back to reality, reminding them of what they were here to do. Next, Park Jung-wook took the lead, activating his Monarch trait to issue combat orders to all his team members.
Then,
Hong Shi-ah followed suit,
activating her Monarch trait to coordinate her team. Those with low defense moved to the back for support. The rest of you
Follow up.
in an instant.
The members of both teams who possessed
Long-range attack skills strode forward, unleashing a frenzied barrage of attacks onto the Gatekeeper. After enduring the initial wave of assaults, the Gatekeeper tightened its grip on its sword hilt.
the very next second.
Its blade began to emit faint purple flames. Could tell at a glance that it was preparing to summon the Hell Cannon. It violently thrust its greatsword into the ground. The aura erupting from its body suddenly grew several times stronger than before. Mei chains also began to loosen slightly. Seeing this, dash forward to tighten the chains, while shouting for them not to halt their attacks. My target was the glowing mass at its chest. Even though my current defense definitely could not block the hellfire it was about to unleash, as long as I could rip that thing out from its chest,
could destroy it.
with that in mind, leaped into the air and charged straight at it. By now, its chest had already started spewing flames outward. Reaching its chest, viciously thrust my sword down. Seeing my actions, Ji-min screamed, "The fire is too strong. It is dangerous."
Even if the attack works,
you will lose your life.
She begged me to retreat immediately,
but by then,
had already plunged my hand deep into its flame-erupting wound. Người đàn ông rõ ràng đã tìm ra điểm yếu của quái vật.
Hưng đồng đội vẫn gào thét bảo, anh ta mau bỏ cuộc.
Bởi lúc nãy xung quanh con quái vật đang
bong cháy ngọn lửa thiêu rụi với nhiệt độ hơn 3000 độ C. Hơn nữa, nhiệt độ vẫn không ngừng
Thăng lên.
Có thể phát nổ bất cứ lúc nào.
Hưng tôi vẫn cắn răng, chịu đau.
hót thay vào trong cơ thể nó là một người trọng sinh.
Thôi Heels Row.
Viên hoa là thạc đó chắc chắn nằm ở đây.
Những ngay khi nó lửa thiêu cháy,
lột đá, điều bi và chuẩn bị làm tan chảy cơ bắp của tôi.
Tôi đã túm lấy viên hỏa thạch đó và lôi mảnh ra ngoài.
Sau đó không chút do dự mà bóp nát nó.
Đám cầu thủ xung quanh khi nhìn thấy cảnh này,
Điều kinh hãi đến mức suýt rơi cả cắm.
Hô không ngờ khả năng phòng ngự của tôi lại cao đến mức này.
Vorfithen nay xuống.
Tôi vừa
hét lớn bảo họ tiếp tục tấn công, đừng dừng lại.
Thân đó không còn dùng lửa được nữa đâu.
Kết quả là tôi vừa chết lời.
Hoa ra lu đó đã âm thầm thiên hành mọi chuyện từ lâu.
Vua Tep Det thối vội vàng lốn người ra sao để né tránh.
Phát Trình Út kinh hai nhìn về hướng cột lửa vừa bắn tới.
Hom phụ trách đối phó với tên
gác cổng còn lại đang thương vong, vô cùng thảm khốc.
Trong khi tên gác cổng đó vẫn đứng chờ ra.
Không hề hấn gì.
Đáng nói là trong các thành viên chiến đội,
không một ai bị thương.
Nhưng người tử trận đều là thành viên của Liên minh phản địa hạ.
Đám người này bắt đầu nảy sinh ý định tháo chạy.
Và tôi đang chốt vào việc sau khi tôi xử lý xong con này.
C. Quả giúp bọn họ giải quyết con kia.
Thấy cảnh đó,
Lý Quốc Thái nổ một nụ cười nham hiểm.
Mục đích của hắn là khiến lòng quân bắt đầu dao động.
Thế là hắn lập tức đứng ra nói chính tôi là người.
Đưa mọi người vào bước đường cùng rồi khoanh tay đứng nhìn.
Vẹn phải bắt tôi chịu trách nhiệm cho sự an toàn của mọi người.
Hắn chết đang chiến đấu nghe vậy tức giận, chửi thẳng mặt Lý Quốc Thái.
Bảo hắn đừng có chỉ đứng đó mà su.
khổ dỗi thì nhau vô chiến đấu cùng mọi người đi.
Người thính mắt đều có thể nhìn ra. Đáng quan, thế, đừng, niên chính là lũ các người.
Lý Quốc Thái hỏi ngược lại, cô ta có phải nghĩ rằng
Hắn không có năng lực nên mới không ra tay hay không?
Dạ thì để lũ các người thấy rõ thực lực của bọn ta.
Thì ở Maynanh của Han Burgess, các thành viên phía sau bắt đầu tấn công tên gác cổng.
Chiến binh phụ trách tấn công vào phần chân.
Dạ, Thu và Pháp Sư tấn công tầm xa vào phần thân trên.
Sát thủ thì chọn đúng thời cơ để tung đòn đột kích.
Sao một đợt tấn công?
Bọn họ thực sự đã
Áp chế hiệu quả được tên gác cổng đó.
Thấy vậy,
Tôi bao han chết và mọi người qua đó hỗ trợ đi.
bên này, min tôi lỗ là đủ rồi.
Trong lúc tôi đang nói,
Tên gác cổng kia,
đang vung tan đại kiếm định chém thẳng xuống đầu tôi.
tôi vừa đòn này.
tôi chỉ cần nhẹ nhàng nhảy lên.
Là đã dễ dàng né được cú chém của nó.
Tiếp đó,
Tôi vống xích ngay trên không trung để phản công.
thân hình đồ sộ của nó hoàn toàn không thể né được, nhưng đường tấn công quái dị từ sợi xích của tôi.
Sau đó tôi tận dụng khoảng hở này.
Sử dụng
Thử thần liêm vung ra, liên tiếp nhiều đường chém vào người nó.
cuối cùng.
Tôi chấp đất một cách cực ngầu và an toàn.
Anh Chu Hiến đứng phía sau, nhìn thấy màn đại kinh thất sắc.
Không ngờ không quái vật mà tất cả bọn họ
Hấp lực lại mới miễn cưỡng áp chế được.
Light bị một mình tôi đánh cho không còn sức phản kháng.
Thế là hắn khoát đám đàn em phải đốt sức vào.
Đừng có lười biếng, đam đàn em, nhận lệnh đương nhiên không đam.
Lola,
Khi còn các liên tục tung ra các đòn tấn công.
Tôi nhìn cái liên minh mà Lý Quốc Thái vừa lập ra.
Có vẻ không đơn thuần chỉ là để phô trương sức mạnh.
Nhưng việc cấp bách nhất hiện tại là giải quyết con quái này. Mấy chuyện khác thì sao đi?
Nhìn nghĩ, đoạn.
Tôi lại thông xích thôi chát tên gác cổng.
Sau đó đốt toàn lực chém 2 nhát vào ngực nó.
Hắn lúc nô đồ đôn nâng đấu lên.
Tôi đã siết chặt lấy cô nó.
Khuôi khoảng.
1. Đào rút, khoa chém bài đồ nó.
Khi Tep Det
Các tốt núng thay tôi trắng bệch vì siết chặt.
Tong, dong dong, suy nhẹ chuê liềm.
Thang đáo được bao phủ bởi một lớp hào quang tím sậm.
Lết lũ đỏ ấn mình trong bóng tối.
Thịt cáo những cổ văn khắc trên sống tao tỏa ra ánh bạc mờ ảo.
To you như một loại nguyên chú đang bị phong ấn.
Cuộc chiến ở phía bên kia cùng dân đi đến hồi kết, không với những đợt tấn công đồn đập của đám đông.
Ten gác cổng còn lại cũng đổ râm xuống đất.
Lúc này, ẩn Chu Hiên cầm viên tinh thể quái vật rơi ra đi tới.
Nỗi muốn đến cửa hàng đổi một món thần khí xịn hơn.
Hưng Lý Quốc Thái lại muốn ưu tiên cho chiến đội yên vụ của mình trước.
An Chu Hiên nhắc nhở hắn rằng hiện tại cái
Liên minh này là do nhiều quân chủ hợp thành.
Yên ưu tiên, bồi dưỡng, cho liên minh trước mới phải.
Cuối cùng Lý Quốc Thái thu lấy tinh thể rồi bảo hắn cứ yên tâm.
Phát Trinh Úc nghe thấy cuộc đối thoại của hai người thì thắc mắc.
Cái liên minh này của bọn họ thành lập từ bao giờ vậy?
Không, thì nhá bao vừa rồi. Cô ấy có đi nghe ngóng.
Just found out those guys have been operating behind the scenes. Đú không biết đã dùng cách gì để lôi kéo được những quân chủ vốn luôn bảo thủ.
Linh Khoa, thì việc vận hành liên minh cũng khá ra ngô ra khoai.
Tuy nhiên,
Lido luôn nhất, chắc chắn là vì.
người đàn ông kia đã mang lại cho bọn chúng cảm giác bị đe dọa.
Nói đoạn, cậu ấy nhìn sang tôi với vẻ đầy thắc mắc.
Hưng chính chủ tung trung có vẻ chẳng thèm bận tâm chút nào.
Sao đó cậu ấy cùng với Phát Trinh Úc.
Tới đấy và kể cho tôi nghe về chuyện của liên minh.
Thối bảo mình đã biết chuyện đó từ lâu rồi.
Chỉ kèm bọn chúng chưa ra tay công khai.
Thì cứ mặc kệ bọn chúng đi.
Hơn nữa tôi đã có kế hoạch đối phó rồi.
Lúc này Hanchard và mọi người cùng đi tới. Nói rằng nếu sau này đám người đó cũng
tham gia chiến đấu thì tôi sẽ được rảnh tay hơn một chút.
Hưng chỉ mà lại giữ thái độ hoài nghi.
Cậu ấy nói vẹn nhặt lũ đó lại.
Đồng lòng đương nhiên, không ai ra tay thì thỉnh sau.
Cậu ấy không muốn đi giúp một lũ khốn nạn như vậy.
Phát Chính Úc nói, đủ sao nếu muốn rời khỏi.
Nơi này thì bắt buộc phải tiêu diệt được ma vương.
Nên serenity and name
Bọn chúng chỉ có cách chiến đấu.
Hông tí nha liếc, nhìn xung quanh một lượt.
Cảm thấy bầu không khí hiện tại có chút không ổn.
Mọi người ai nấy đều không ngừng phàn nàn. Họ nhỉ kỹ cứ để một mình tôi đối phó ma vương là được rồi. Hèn họ cho rằng thay vì thế này.
Hajia nhập liên minh còn hơn.
Ở bên ngoài phòng thu biết đâu còn giữ được mạng.
Lúc này có một người đứng ra bảo.
Mọi người đừng có ở đó mà cầm ram nữa.
Muốn sống sót vào lúc này, chỉ có một con đường duy nhất.
Dốt, chính là đánh bại ma vương.
Nói xong cô ấy đi tới trước mặt tôi.
Giới thiệu tên là Thành Y Nghiên.
Rồi hỏi, tôi có phải là Khương Tú Hàn trong truyền thuyết không?
Vừa nói, cô ta vừa từ từ đưa tay lại gần ngực tôi. Freeman đứng bên cạnh nhìn thấy cảnh này, tức đến mức thoát gai như rừng, đứng cả lên.
Hơn hưng khi cô ta còn chưa kịp chạm vào.
Ghê rồi.
Tôi đã gạt tay cô ta ra và hỏi muốn làm gì.
Hàn nhìn nghiền nói, cô ta cũng không có việc gì đặc biệt.
Chỉ là muốn giới thiệu cho tôi, làm quen một người.
Thấy tôi lạnh lùng như vậy.
Cô ta kêu người bỏ gì?
Và nói, khi nào tôi đổi ý thì cứ báo cho cô ta biết.
Còn nói người đó cực kỳ có hứng thú với tôi.
Cỡ Thành Y nên đi xa.
Khi mà thăm truy cô ta là cái thai gì chứ? Men biết lúc trước cô ấy muốn nói chuyện với tôi.
Điều bị tôi ngó lờ hoàn toàn.
Cô ấy thầm nghĩ chẳng lẽ chỉ cần là người không gia nhập
Chiến đội thì sẽ không bị ngó lơ hay sao?
Hàn Chiết vừa mới nói lúc trước cậu ta định
lỗi của tôi cũng bị ngó lơ xong.
Tôi lập tức ngó lơ bọn họ và bảo rằng
sau khi chỉnh đốn xong chúng ta tiếp tục lên đường.
Sau khi tôi đi thêm một lúc nữa,
Trước mắt xuất hiện một bức tường ánh sáng màu tím.
Đột nhiên lúc này, tiếng cười của con yêu tinh truyền đến từ bốn phía.
khiến mọi người giật mình kinh hãi.
Để sau đó con yêu tinh xuất hiện.
Lào đi giọt nước mắt vì cười quá nhiều.
Nói rằng
Đợt người chơi này quả thực quá thú vị.
Vì các người thú vị như vậy.
Nén ta sẽ thiết lâu cho các người một tin tốt nhé.
Kolong Zik Chuyên Dẫn Sang Hòn Đảo Tiếp Thao.
Không phải cứ đánh bại ma vương mới được mở ra đâu.
Chỉ cần trụ vững được 30 phút dưới sự tấn công của ma vương,
thì viên tinh thể thoát hiểm trên ngai vàng sẽ được kích hoạt.
Hơn nữa cách này không giới hạn số lượng người. Đồ đỏ, tất cả mọi người đều có cơ hội đến hòn đảo tiếp theo.
Có phải rất đơn giản không nào?
Mọi người nên biết rằng, tuy dùng mảnh tinh thể,
Mua về tôi tạt cũng được.
Nhưng đó không phải là con đường chính thống để sang đảo tiếp theo.
Mọi người cố gắng trụ vững nhé.
Hẹn gặp lại ở đảo sau.
nói xong nó lại biến mất ngay tại chỗ. Hey hồng những lửa này.
Thôi Tommy, mục đích của nó lúc này.
quả thực là quá rõ ràng rồi.
Hú vợv.
Tham thế ban đầu của mọi người là
Doc, Tonluk, phải giết bằng được ma vương.
Đáng bị hạ xuống thành chỉ cần trụ vững là được không?
Lúc đó,
Ma vốn trên ngai vàng. Hệ đủ tay lên.
Nhưng khôi khẩu thiết dưới đất liền bắt đầu từ lơ lửng giữa đại điện.
Cùng với tiếng hô thức tỉnh đi của ả.
Nhưng khẩu thịt đỏ bắt đầu luân chuyển điên cuồng.
Engage sao đỏ.
Vô số vong linh bắt đầu.
Chân còn một chui ra từ những cầu thịt đó.
Tôi nhận ra phiên bản lối này, thậm chí còn
chứa bằng một nửa sức mạnh của bản thể dưới vực thẳm.
Hôm nay quỹ đạo tấn công của chúng tôi cũng đã thuộc nằm lòng.
Ý đám vong linh đó định lao đến trước mặt tôi.
Thôi năng chống, mở cửa hắng.
Sử dụng
Thiên thể mini để mua một món thanh khí.
Đó là vũ khí đi cùng bổ với chiếc liềm trong tay tôi.
Ten nô la công lý của Decoratos.
Ghê, khi tôi ném tanh đón đảo này ra.
Con vong linh phỉ phía trước chúng đón và tử trận tại chỗ.
Engage Leptics. Han không lý của Decoratos này.
Lights xuất hiện trâu lại trong tay tôi.
Bởi vì nó sở hữu hai kỹ năng đặc trưng.
Ten la, Fentech và thu hồi.
Sau đó tôi lại sử dụng kỹ năng phân tách của nó.
biến aura hàng lord sinh đoàn đảo.
Và dùng ý nghĩ điều khiển chúng lao nhanh về phía trước.
Mục tiêu của chúng chính là ma vương đang chiếm trệ trên ngai vàng.
Hưng không một thanh đoàn đao nào có thể chạm đến ả.
Bởi vì tất cả đều đã bị
Một con vòng linh đô ma vương triệu hồi ra chặn lại. Ngay sau đó đột nhiên đứng dậy và vùng một chiếc roi nhỏ về phía tôi.
Tôi dùng xích chặn đứng đòn tấn công này.
Rồi một lần nữa lao vọt về phía ả.
Sau đó tôi vung hàng chục sợi xích đen thuyền.
Với tốc độ như rắn, trường quấn chặt lấy ma vương.
Ma vương cùng vùng chiếc roi và chạm với sợi xích tạo ra tiếng chăn chát.
Cảm tưởng như giây tiếp theo sẽ xé nát không khí thành một tấm lưới vụn.
6. Khi giáo tránh liên tiếp vài chục chiêu.
Ma vương đột nhiên thu lại một tay.
Rồi bắt đầu âm thầm thi triển một loại ma pháp nào đó.
Lên sạc của những con quái vật Gita. Nhưng xác quái vật đó sau khi được truyền ma pháp
Like Mark Radatit và Lao Tang về phía tôi với độc cực nhanh.
Hơn vì đã quá hiểu rõ chiêu trò của ả nên tôi đã dễ dàng né tránh được.
Sao he tipped it.
Tôi hết bảo họ hãy xử lý đám quái nhỏ xung quanh đi.
Ma vương cứ để tôi lố la được.
Hàn Triệt thấy lũ quái vật ua lên ngày càng nhiều.
Thức sẵn hỏi đám người Lý Quốc Thái đang làm cái gì thế?
Tại sao không cùng xông lên chiến đấu?
Kết quả là Lý Quốc Tài vẫn đứng im tại chỗ và
Ra lần cho Tu Kha giữ nguyên vị trí. Chờ lần.
Triman nói cô ấy biết ngay lũ này sẽ làm thế mà.
Tôi không ngờ bọn chúng lại dám dở trò phá đám vào lúc này.
Thế nên tôi bảo họ hãy chịu trách nhiệm cầm chân ma vương một lát.
Triman thọt lên kinh ngạc.
Nếu không có tôi
Thì làm sao bọn họ có thể chống đỡ nổi ma vương chứ?
Trong lúc đang nổi,
Ma vương bắt đầu trợn trừng đôi mắt.
Ma Hi Quang, thân đăng bọt, nhắn thắng.
Sau khi take two look song.
Yếu khâu hãy thề.
Một đôi tay khổng lồ từ dưới đất Markland.
Tiếp đó, nó nắm chặt nắm đấm lao về phía tôi. Hơn nhưng nắm đấm đó
khi còn chưa chạm tới.
Chỗ tôi thì đột ngột dừng lại.
Điều khiến tôi hơi ngạc nhiên là phát chính ngũ.
Like ra tay chant đừng đòn thành công này cho tôi.
Cậu ta phun ra một ngụm máu, rồi bảo tôi hãy.
Nghĩ nặng về nhằng. Cậu ta không trụ được lâu đâu. Về.
Thôi không một chút do dự.
Khoanh người chạy như bay về phía sau.
Lúc này, vì những người phía trước đang hỗn chiến với vong linh,
Nên dẫn đến việc những người đứng sau
Hoàn toàn không thấy rõ tình hình phía trước.
nhưng đột nhiên lúc này,
Một thành viên của chiến đội Hỏa Tinh
Đang bị ai đó đâm một đao từ phía sau.
Và tử vong ngay tại chỗ.
An Chu Hiến quay đầu nhìn thấy người đang cầm đoạn đao.
lên lớn tiếng chất vấn hành động này là có ý gì.
Lý Quốc Tài bảo hắn đương nhiên là nhân lúc tên kia. Đang bận đối phó mà Vương không rảnh để tâm.
Phi sẽ chỉnh đốn lại cục diện hiện tại rồi.
Cùng với một tiếng lệnh của hắn,
các thành viên phía sau bắt đầu sải bước.
lao thẳng về phía người của chiến đội Hỏa Tính.
An Chu Hiên trong lúc hoảng loạn cùng
Không quên tổ chức nhân sự chuẩn bị phản công.
Hưng quay đầu lại thì thấy các thành viên chiến đội mình
Cứ như chúng phải loại độc nào đó.
Có thể không cử động được.
thế là một cuộc thám sát đơn phương bắt đầu diễn ra. An Chu Hiên thấy tình hình này không ổn.
Bắt đầu khiến như Lý Quốc Thái rằng trận chiến vẫn chưa kết thúc.
làm như vậy chỉ khiến tất cả mọi người cùng chết ở đây thôi.
Thằng Lý Quốc Thái lại bảo hắn chuyện đó không còn quan trọng nữa. Đú sao đám người đó cũng chỉ là lũ rác rưởi để lấp chỗ trống.
Tất cả mọi người đều sẽ chọn cái chết vì quân chủ.
Khi hắn nói câu này,
Hình giảm.
Chiến đội trên mu bàn tay, hắn từ từ sáng lên.
Vậy thì An Chu Hiên đang suy nghĩ xem.
Vì quân chủ mà hắn nói đến là ai?
Thí lũy đoạn, đao lạnh, léo đã kề sát cổ hắn.
May mắn tôi xuất hiện kịp thời ngăn cản nhát đao đó.
Sau khi thu hồi đoán kèm,
Thôi ho Lý Quốc Tài.
Cuối cùng cũng đã chịu lộ bộ mặt thật rồi sao? Khái bộ trạng giữa chó sau lưng của nơi. Đúng là vẫn y như xưa nhỉ. Lý Quốc Tài đầu tiên là hỏi tôi lúc này. Không, phải nên ở phía trước đối phó mà Vương sao?
Hắn nhớ cũng nhớ núi đến cũng đã muốn rồi.
Vua Jutler.
Các thành viên chiến đội của hắn
Đang loạt lao lên bao vây lấy tôi.
K. Ra mau quân chủ.
Anh đi quay cuồng cùng lối đuôi rồi. Khái đuôi của Hắc quân chủ cần phải loại bỏ trong phần hướng dẫn tân thủ.
còn bài bó của quân chủ. Tiếp đó, Lý Quốc Thái nói, dù bọn chúng không thắng nổi tôi,
Nhưng vẫn có thể cầm chân được tôi ở đây.
cứ như vậy thì những người đang chiến đấu phía trước
Dèm môn gì cũng sẽ bị ma vương giết sạch.
Và hắn nói hắn đã chuẩn bị săn tinh thần để chết rồi.
Trước đó.
Nhất định phải kéo tôi cùng xuống suối vàng.
Sau khi hắn nói xong,
tôi bước lên một bước, nói, ngươi có vẻ hiểu lầm rồi.
Lần này tôi tới, không phải để ngăn cản ngươi,
Mà là tới để đưa cho ngươi một đề nghị.
Một đề nghị cực kỳ tuyệt vời.
6. Khi nghe tôi nói,
sự kiên định trong lòng Lý Quốc Thái.
Bắt đầu xuất hiện một chút dao động, quay trở lại chiến trường phía trước.
Lúc này hắn chết đã run ray đến mức kiếm cầm không vững.
Thăm ní tôi đi lâu như vậy, rồi sao vẫn chưa thấy về?
kết quả là 1 phút, lâu đằng đã để một con.
Quái vật lướt qua bên cạnh mình.
Gây khi con quái vật đó định làm hại những người phía sau.
Thôi, xuất hiện kịp thời.
khoang sở xích về phía nó.
Đầu tiên là quấn chặt lấy cái mồm thối của nó. Sau đó tay khẽ dùng lực băm văn nó ra thành 8 mảnh.
Cuối cùng là một mán tiếp đất đầy tiêu sái.
Lúc này,
Vẻ ngô của tôi không từ ngữ nào ở trái đất ta nổi.
Nó như thể một con khủng bạo long siêu cấp vũ trụ mặc thành y vàng.
lại động cơ warp sway tron bay, vút lên thiên hạ.
Technomernan ngôi sao giữa trung tâm vũ trụ song song.
Mấy có thể mô phỏng lại một phần cái khái niệm ngầu này.
sau khi kết thúc màn làm mẫu,
Hông Phi nhờ.
Cháy tay hỏi, tôi rốt cuộc đã đi đâu làm gì?
Thôi không nói gì nhiều.
Chỉ bảo bọn họ rằng
Mình đi chuẩn bị cho bước tiếp theo của kế hoạch.
Ngay lúc đó, bên cạnh đột nhiên vang lên một tiếng nổ lớn. Rồi mọi người thấy Chí Mẫn bị đánh bay ra ngoài. Mà Vương sau khi vớn bọn họ một lúc thì cảm thấy quá nhàm chán.
Thế là lại triệu hồi nắm đấm định kết thúc tất cả.
Hay, nắm đâm, ập tới.
Thôi nan chăng lút người ra sau.
Đông tôi nêm đoạn đao về phía ma vương.
Và quang sở xích theo cùng với thanh đoạn đao đó.
Trong nai mặt.
Vô số đoạn, đau mang theo.
Six shot đã bao vây ma vương 180 độ.
Hưng những thanh đao đó khi đến trước mặt ạ.
Like không hề thân không trực diện.
Má sợi trốn khoản ngồi đúng xích sắt, choi chắt, lấy
Mà vùng định vùng vây thì vài thanh đoạn đao.
Lập tức, đối hướng, đâm sâu vào cơ thể
Lần này thực sự đã khiến nổi trận lôi đình. Không với việc mà khi quăng thân lại tăng vọt, những sợi xích xung quanh cũng bị căng ra đến cực hạn.
Hông Ti Nhã thấy vậy định lên giúp một tay.
Ti bị tôi đủ tay ngăn lại.
Hắn chết không hiểu hỏi, tại sao tôi lại ngăn họ?
Nhưng chưa đâu cậu ta nói hết khẩu.
Một quả cầu.
Năng lượng thím đã bay thẳng về phía chúng tôi.
Và tôi bị quả cầu đó đánh trúng.
Lùi về phía sau, mọi người vẫn chưa kịp nhìn rõ những gì vừa xảy ra.
Thì một tiếng nổ kinh thiên động địa đã vang lên trong đại điện.
Ai này đều không rõ liệu tôi có bị trúng đòn hay không.
Hơn như bọn họ tin rằng tôi
không thể nào bị đánh bại dễ dàng như thế được. Tất nhiên lúc này, Chí Mẫn dường như phát hiện.
Ra điều gì đó.
Bao, máu 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 ngân máu máu ngân máu máu ngân máu ngân máu ngân máu ngân máu ngân.
Đội họ ngừng đầu nhìn kỹ thì thấy tôi.
Hố ra đã bình an vô sự né được đòn tấn công đó.
Tiếp đó tôi sử dụng kỹ năng phân tách của đoạn đao, biến ra như thành, rồi phi xuống mặt đất.
Mục tiêu lần này không phải ma vương,
mà là những sợi xích trên người
Khi tôi đóng đinh toàn bộ xích trên người xuống đất.
Càng vùng vãi thì xích sắt càng siết lại nhanh hơn.
Cuối cùng không trụ vững được mà quỳ rạp xuống đất.
Và ngay khi thép đợi,
Tôi đã rút.
Tên liêm vùng ra một đường chém đầy uy lực.
mà vốn không thể né tránh. Đành phải hứng chọn đòn đau.
Mọi người xung quanh nhận thấy đòn tấn công của tôi thực sự đã có hiệu quả đối với ma vương.
Nhưng ma vương
không nhưng không tức giận.
Má cũng pha lên cười một tràng kinh thiên động địa.
Nói rằng rất hài lòng về tôi.
Nói xuống, cái khảnh thay bị đứt kia lại mọc ra lần nữa.
Và không ưng phình thủ ra biến thành
Một bàn tay khổng lồ có đường kính 2,5 mét. Thôi in ra được muốn sử dụng
Cái bàn tay lớn này để đỏ sức mạnh với tôi.
Hiện tại, tôi không muốn đánh tiêu hao với
Thế là tôi triệu hồi một viên phù văn từ cổ tay.
Rồi, trực tiếp hấp thu nó vào trong lòng bàn tay.
Phía bên mà vong.
Trend ban take cốt lô đo.
đang tủ sẵn hàng loạt qua khẩu năng lượng tím.
Dây dao đỏ phóng toàn bộ về phía tôi.
Hơn lần này tôi không lùi mà lại tiến tới.
Lao thẳng về phía mà vuông, bất chấp những quả cầu năng lượng.
Trend đường đi.
Tôi dùng xích sắt để triệt tiêu đòn tấn công.
Mà Vuông thấy vậy từ từ giơ cánh tay lên.
Yeah, nám đầm khổng lồ của lên thớt cao.
Rồi đây, tôi lao tới gần liền giáng mạnh xuống.
Trong lúc đang lao thẳng lên đồi đầu về nám đầm, tôi đã hét lớn gọi tên Handshake.
Khổ tội mừng thắng kiếm của cậu.
Hắn chết né xuống, không dám chậm trễ một giây.
Lập tức name thong tên Chern Kim về phía tôi.
Không với cú giáng mạnh từ bàn tay khổng lồ của Ma Vương.
Trái tim của mọi người lúc này đều như treo ngược trên cành cây.
The man simply used the most basic sword draw slash, which completely stunned the undefeated Demon King.
Just a moment ago,
She struck with all her might, intending to obliterate me on the spot.
she never expected that a novice like me could actually
Pierced through her palm and burst out, with my blade unsheathed, dashed forward to close the distance. Just as the cold gleam of my sword was about to strike her head, she suddenly spewed a cloud of poisonous mist from her mouth. However, relying on my incredibly high magic resistance, tanked the poison and swung my sword down at her.
Seeing this,
Everyone thought the fierce battle was finally over, but as a Reincarnator, knew clearly that it was not that simple.
Sure enough,
Right after I spoke, the Demon King began to laugh maniacally, with a twisted expression.
She said it had been a
Long time since she had felt this level of pain.
Serenity as she spoke.
And intense demonic aura suddenly erupted from her body. Her presence instantly skyrocketed by several levels.
even this attack
Made me feel an unprecedented, overwhelming pressure. Suddenly, a spear flew in from the side. Although the force was not enough to pierce her skin, it dispersed the energy ball she had just gathered in her hand. Turned my head and saw that Hong Xia had thrown the spear. The Demon King gave her a disdainful glance, then controlled an undead creature to pounce on her, intending to get rid of the annoying ant first.
Fortunately,
Jimin appeared just in time.
swinging her sword to dispel the undead.
Knowing they were no match for the Demon King, and having achieved her goal of stalling for time,
Hong Xia immediately gave the order to retreat.
but how could the Demon King let them leave so easily? She gathered energy once again and slowly lowered her finger, pointing directly at me as I knelt on the ground.
Completely exhausted.
She knew very well that here, only I posed a threat to her,
As long as I was eliminated.
the others would be at her mercy. The pillar of energy crashed down where I stood. The massive shockwave instantly sent everyone around flying several meters away. Even the aftermath of the impact was terrifying. They wondered if I could really survive an attack of this magnitude when everyone looked in my direction. They noticed a figure seemingly emerging from behind the smoke. Immediately after, a blue light flashed and a dagger tore through the smoke.
Flying rapidly forward.
It pierced precisely into the Demon King's other heart. At this moment, had used up every last ounce of my strength. As the Demon King pulled out the dagger,
She
complained about the restrictions placed upon her. If she could use her true power.
how could such an attack have worked? Hearing this, shock appeared on everyone's faces, wondering if this Demon King still had a backup plan.
But immediately, the crystal symbolizing escape began to flash with light amidst everyone's cheers. The system prompted that the conditions were met. The crystal's teleportation portal was opening.
However,
Me expression grew solemn again because the Demon King had not disappeared. Instead, the demonic aura around her had grown heavier. According to my memories from my past life, the boss fight with the Demon King should have ended here. The next scene made my pupils instantly dilate, saw her body, which should have dissipated, unexpectedly begin to condense once again.
Furthermore,
She was forcibly summoning her main body from the abyss to descend into this shell. Just as she prepared to wipe us all out in one fell swoop, the little fairy suddenly appeared, pointing a finger at her and shouting,
Enough.
"To think someone would dare to use their main body's power?" In the beginner tutorial zone,
saying this,
a giant palm appeared out of thin air and grabbed the Demon King within its grasp.
Then, the little fairy said,
Violating the rules comes with a punishment. You know?
without my permission here,
How dare you do such a thing, according to the rules?
you are to be recalled.
Hez, she spoke. She squeezed the hand holding the Demon King even tighter.
Hearing this,
The Demon King complained that the little fairy had not only brought her to such a place, but also restricted her abilities, causing her to be injured by lowly humans.
She roared that she could not leave and had to kill these bugs first.
This was undoubtedly a challenge to the little fairy's authority. So, in the next second, the little fairy mercilessly crushed the Demon King. This action made even us, her enemies, feel it was somewhat cruel. But the little fairy put a smile back on her face and told everyone not to worry, saying she would handle rule violations like this. Next, it was time to distribute the rewards for clearing this stage.
normally,
Very few people could defeat this Demon King, so she congratulated everyone here.
Secondly,
Since there was only own Demon King reward,
she decided to give it to me.
The own with the highest contribution.
with that, a dark red stone appeared in my hand. When used, it could lock all my rune stats at 99.99%. However, this effect would only last for one day. And once it ended,
All my stat values would drop to 0.01%.
before leaving,
The little fairy told us,
that as long as we silently thought of the island we wanted to go to, while using the crystal, we would be teleported to the designated place. Looking at the reward in my hand, thought to myself that getting this meant I had achieved my goal for coming here. The power from the abyss just now had exceeded my range of control if the little fairy had not intervened. the consequences would have been unimaginable. Therefore, had to hurry up and get stronger. At this moment, Hanja and Park Jung-wook walked over from behind, saying that after expending so much effort, they did not expect to get only own reward. But everyone knew that the Demon King was almost entirely defeated by me alone. Even if someone wanted to steal it, they would not have the capability. Hong Xia felt that the Mist Guild probably would not let things go so easily, so she hurriedly tried to contact her guild members in the rear, told them that things in the rear should already be over by now. Confused.
Han? Ja asked me what I meant by that.
What was already over at that moment?
Hong Xia also managed to contact her guild members in the rear
and learned that the marks on the other members' hands had disappeared. That meant their guild's lord had very likely died. Upon learning this news, Hong Xia shockingly told us that the Mist Guild had betrayed them and caused the lords of the other guilds to disappear.
Hearing this news,
a smile crept onto the corner of my mouth.
The scene shifted to a forest. A man in black was currently standing in the center of a clearing. At his feet lay the corpses of many guild members. And just 2.5 minutes ago at this very spot, Li Guktae had brought the guild lords here. Although he did not know what this place was, seeing the tower in the distance, he figured he must have come to the right place. His mission after disguising himself as a lord was to disrupt and eliminate all the lords on the central island. Earlier, he had intentionally provoked a conflict between the lords and me. And while the lords were guarding against me, he took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. He even called me an idiot, because earlier I had told him that as long as he made the lords his guild members, he could control the guilds under the other lords.
Furthermore,
had also given him an item that could open teleportation portals,
telling him that as long as he did not cause trouble here, would not care what he did, and with this teleportation item, he could proceed directly to the next island when all the lords had been brought over.
Li Guktae said that this place was
different from the originally designated standby location, and he needed to contact his superiors first. But before he could finish speaking, Owen of his subordinates was suddenly killed by a flying short sword. However, looking around,
they could not
find any trace of the attacker.
Seeing that the opponent did not dare to show themselves,
Li Guktae
guessed that their numbers must be small. But just as he tried to change his position, he found that he could not move at all. Looking down, he discovered that his feet were continuously sinking downward. Just as they were struggling relentlessly, the person's voice began to echo around them. Was half skeptical at first, but I did not expect you guys to actually show up. It seems my preparations were not in vain. Immediately after, the person appeared behind Li Guktae and continued,
"Beneath your feet is a single-use trap I set up in advance.
Although it takes some time to activate after being placed. As long as I know your movements in advance,
this thing works like a charm."
After hearing this, Li Guktae broke into a cold sweat while muttering,
"Impossible." Before he could finish, the mysterious man slashed him down with own strike. Seeing this,
An Ju-hyun hastily begged for mercy
and said he was willing to do anything. But in the next second,
the mysterious man
dashed forward, quickly covering his mouth, and pinned him heavily to the ground. He only let go after the man completely lost all signs of life. This mysterious man was the Owen who had followed my instructions to set up the trap here.
Initially,
when he heard me talking about the central island and the tower,
he was completely bewildered.
He did not expect these people to actually come, and this person was precisely Shang Zhen. This was the very task I had assigned to him before I left.
Meanwhile,
a teleportation crystal somewhere was flashing with light.
Several people were gathered around the crystal. One of them said,
"That guy Li Guktae is dead."
It seems the mission on the central island has failed. The last time he contacted me was at the Demon King's castle.
Looks like he died there.
But it does not matter.
It was to be expected.
However, it seems someone is getting in our way.
Regardless,
they will want to come to this tower with the best rewards, and this is the only path to reach here via the crystal.
Finally,
the leader said, "We absolutely won't let anyone pass through here easily."
Serenity as he spoke.
Marks identical to Li Guktae's lit up on their hand. The scene returned to the castle on the central island. Explain to the survivors. Explain to the survivors ship it. Explain to the survivors that there are hundreds of small islands on the map. The islands are generally divided into 3 stages.
We have already passed the starting point of the first stage.
The central island we are currently on belongs to the second stage. Only by reaching an island in the 3rd stage will we complete the beginner tutorial. And among the islands in the 3rd stage, there is a tower island where Owen can obtain massive rewards. However, advised them against going to the tower island. While speaking,
took out some magical beast meat
from my spatial inventory and started eating. The others looked bewildered,
not understanding why.
Was stopping them from heading to the tower island. Also knew the doubts in their minds.
So I told them to think about it carefully.
Just this central island alone almost wiped us all out.
If you die before getting stronger,
then everything is meaningless. It's not it. I am just warning you. Whether you go or not is entirely up to you. After I finished speaking, they started discussing privately what to do. After a while,
Hong Xia
stepped forward and asked if I was not planning to go to the tower island either. While we were talking,
Sung Yi-yeon,
who was standing nearby, pricked up her ears, trying to hear clearly, but ultimately could not make it out and turned to leave.
Told Hong Xia that no matter which island we went to,
we could get rewards to become stronger. Hong Xia originally thought I would risk my life to get stronger, but listening to my tone now, it seemed like I had no intention of going to the tower island either.
Park Jung-wook was the first to break the silence and agreed with my proposal.
Even though, after those lords disappeared, he had convinced the remaining players and vastly expanded his guild size. Many people were heavily injured right now, so they needed to rest and reorganize. With this thought,
he walked up to me and said, "Thank you."
He said that if it were not for me, probably everyone present would have died. Although I did not shake his extended hand. This time, I did not ignore him and told him, "We will meet again." Then, he called Hanja and his team members, preparing to get up and leave. Hong Xia also decided to heed my advice and head to another island.
Shortly after,
A teleportation portal appeared in front of the crystal. The others also abandoned the idea of going to the Tower Island. They figured if even I was not going,
They certainly should not.
seeing that they had all made up their minds, told them to go first.
As I still had things to take care of here.
After Han Jae and the others left,
Hong Xia asked Jimin if she wanted to go bid me farewell.
but Jimin stubbornly replied that she did not want to.
Right before stepping inside,
She turned her head and told me that rather than saying have a safe trip, it was better to say goodbye. After waiting for the final wave of people to leave, turned and asked Sung Yi-yeon why she had not left yet.
Hearing this,
Sung Yi-yeon told me to go first. She said she still needed to confirm a few things.
Replied.
Suit yourself.
Then turned and walked toward the portal. In the moment before disappearing, said in a very low voice,
Looks like I will be seeing you on the next island.
Although Sung Yi-yeon saw the movement of my
lips. She could not clearly hear what I said. Once she was left completely alone,
She raised her hand.
revealing mark identical to the own on the group at the Tower Island, she reported to the other side that these people had been whispering, so she could not clearly hear exactly which islands they were heading to. However, there should still be a few going to the Tower Island upon receiving the message. The group lying in ambush immediately entered a combat-ready state. The leader stared intently at the crystal in front of him. Then, he picked up a machete beside him, and with a dash, lunged toward the crystal, vowing to claim his first prey of the day. But as the figure in the portal gradually became clearer, he was instantly shocked, because the person emerging from inside was none other
Then Sung Yi-yeon.
who had just sent him the report.
As soon as Sung Yi-yeon came out,
She saw
Machete swinging straight at her neck.
terrified,
She hastily ducked to dodge it.
once she regained her composure, she said, Lord.
Is not your welcoming ceremony a bit too grand?
the man asked Sung Yi-yeon why she had come alone.
Where were the others?
Sung Yi-yeon also expressed great confusion.
Because she was the last on to teleport, there was no on else left on the central island. Could it be that not a single person came to the Tower Island? The Lord said they had been waiting here all this time. But in the end, they had not even caught a single ant.
Sung Yi-yeon said those people might have all been
Bewitched by the guy who defeated the Demon King, she then relayed to the Lord what she had heard about me advising the others not to come to the Tower Island. Upon hearing this,
The Lord realized it was me ruining his plans again.
he had previously heard Lee Guktae frequently mention how I disrupted their schemes.
furious.
He slammed his hand hard against the trunk of a nearby tree, with just a slight push of his palm. The large tree in front of him was blown to splinters. They had originally thought that by hunting few players this time, they could harvest a batch of runes, but now, all the time and effort spent locating the portal had gone to waste.
then.
The Lord asked her if she knew why that.
Guy wanted to stop the others from coming here,
Sung Yi-yeon said that I was probably doing it to protect them.
because she had seen that whenever there was danger,
Was willing to step forward.
and she had never seen me kill anyone. Hearing this, the Lord felt that a ticking time bomb like me would definitely hinder his plans in the future. So, he gave an order to notify all guild members. If they encountered me, they were to kill me immediately. His subordinate chimed in, saying that my strength was more than just a little bit higher than theirs.
Did not Sung Yi-yeon say that Guy has never killed anyone?
Just have our subordinates rush at him recklessly.
Won't that work?
He then asked Sung Yi-yeon to describe,
My clothing features and my weapon.
so he could distribute the info to the members scattered across the islands. After giving the instructions, he prepared to lead his people into the tower.
Sung Yi-yeon asked him if he was not going to wait a bit longer.
What if someone else came over later?
The Lord told her that he did not like to wait.
Helpless.
Sung Yi-yeon had no choice but to follow him into the tower. Not long after they left, the portal flashed again, slowly walked out from it and looked around to see no one. Knew they must have already left.
That guy was just like in my past life.
Absolutely zero patience. Now I could finally take action with peace of mind. At this moment, Shang Zhen was hiding behind a tree, not far away, silently watching me, but having spotted him long ago,
Asked,
how long he planned to hide there after he came out. Then asked if he had brought the items I told him to prepare. Hearing this,
Shang Zhen pulled out an item.
called the Seven Siblings earrings.
although he did not know how this item was meant to be used, took it and immediately put it on, then praised him for doing a good job this time. But when Shang Zhen looked up at me again, his face instantly turned red,
Because he saw that my body
had actually undergone some miraculous changes.